Hello, good morning, and welcome to our July 2019 M&E Channel Partner webinar. Today, we're going to be featuring Veritone Attribute. How do we arm TV broadcasters with Veritone Attribute? I'm Daniel Wong, Director of Channel Marketing. I'm here with our special guest, Jeanette Cato. Welcome.
Thanks, Daniel.
Always glad to have you here, bright and early here in our studios in Costa Mesa. I want to welcome everybody again today. We will be recording this webinar, and we'll be sending this to you guys all later this afternoon. In addition, we'll be also taking questions at the end of this webinar. So feel free to put any questions you have in the GoToWebinar chat box, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the webinar. So as we start our slide today, I want to welcome all the new channel partners as well as current channel partners to our webinar today. I want to quickly do a quick review for those who are new. Veritone, as you can see, we are a publicly held company founded in 2014 with global offices all around, ranging here in Costa Mesa as our headquarters all the way through New York and London, and other satellite offices across the US. We're 380 employees strong, and as some of you guys might know, we've developed the world's first operating system for AI called AIware. As you know, AIware is a operating system for AI that essentially transforms and analyzes structured and unstructured data, whether it be audio and video files, documents, or text, and we turn those into basically actionable insights. Our operating system is open and extensible, and so what that means is that whether you as a developer can develop bespoke applications on top of our operating system, and we have done the same thing with that, where we've developed a proprietary suite of AI applications that turn insights into value, and we're going to go over some of that today with Veritone Attribute. Our operating system has been used across 600 plus clients today across multiple verticals, M&E, legal and compliance, across the state and local law enforcement, as well as federal government. As you can see down on our slide here, we have numerous branded organizations who uses it to solve some of their problems today. With regards to media and entertainment, which is what we're focusing on today, our applications and services essentially focus, we work with essentially studios, networks, broadcasters, and sports organizations. And there's two things we actually wind up doing for them. Number one is unlock the hidden values that are trapped inside their content, whether it be live or archived. And at the same time, we help these organizations gain operational efficiencies. So helping them improve cost, helping improve also workflow efficiencies. At the end of the day, our AI intelligence and all our applications, we actually are all part of the content lifecycle management. We touch in every part of that aspect, whether it be creating content, management of it, delivery, monetization, or analyzing those assets. AIware touches all parts of that. Our operating system, AIware, touches, as you can see in this particular slide, numerous types of industries. And in particular, again, we're talking about media entertainment. The core bespoke applications that we've built upon AIware are Attribute, which we're going to talk about today, Core, Veritone Commerce, Veritone Digital Media Hub, and Veritone Essentials. These other four applications we have developed, again, targeting towards the M&E industry. We've also done some webinars based on these particular applications. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please feel free to go to our partner website or some of our past emails that we've had these webinars and hit the on-demand replay. Or if you're having problems finding that, simply reach out to your channel sales manager and ask him for that link, and we'll get you that link so you can watch those replays on that product. So today we're going to be talking about is Veritone Attribute. Essentially, Veritone Attribute is a simple and easy to use application that basically connects ad placement and we tie that to the actions of the target audience that has been taking place against the advertiser's website. This application won Product of the Year, And today I have Jeanette Cato here, who's going to talk a little bit about that. So welcome, Jeanette.
Well, thanks for having me. So super excited to talk about Veritone Attribute. So this is an application that we target primarily for both radio and TV broadcasters. And so, as a channel partner, I would consider who relationships you have or what relationships you have across those types of customers, whether it be, at the kind of the corporate level or the owned and operated level or the affiliate level. Because attribution has absolutely been the biggest buzzword and hot topic for the broadcast industry. And so what attribution is doing today is it's showing the efficacy of advertising as it relates to linear broadcast. And so we can look at what is the correlation of when an ad aired on a particular station to what was the advertiser's website response as it pertains to that ad within a given time frame. And we call that time frame an attribution window. So essentially what this is giving broadcasters ability to do is to measure the effectiveness of advertising across their linear broadcasts, which they really haven't been able to do until today. They've certainly been able to do it with digital advertising, but now that they can actually show not only the effectiveness of their on-air advertising, but then they can drill down into what is working best, what is most effective, what is causing the most engagement from the consumer on the advertiser's website. And they can use that information to super serve existing advertising clients, certainly prospect new advertising clients, maybe those who have typically or traditionally just advertised in digital. They can now, sell a more measurable medium like radio and television. And they can certainly look for upsell opportunities as they begin to realize, maybe what of their campaign is actually performing best so that they can go maximize some of those ad units, especially if they can command a higher dollar for it, and then ultimately lead to a bigger return on investment for the advertiser.
Great. Why don't we dig in a little bit and give some background leading up to this?
Absolutely. So certainly we live in a data-driven age where data and analytics and these types of insights influence everything, certainly in the advertising world. And so our advertisers are holding our feet to the flames in terms of commanding and demanding these types of analytics so that they can maximize their investment. They're more apt to buy intelligently these days, and many are actually attracted to spend in digital because it's been a more traditional measurable medium to date. And so if we go to the next slide, our digital counterparts are certainly high on analytics. With digital, we can offer, real-time metrics in terms of conversion rates and click-through rates down to the IP level. And we've got all those metrics provided by Google Analytics today, but we haven't had this for broadcast advertising. And so while we know that both, TV broadcasting and radio broadcasting over the air is effective, we just haven't been able to measure it until today with attribution. So without this type of analytics, when you're trying to sell broadcast advertising, it's largely been a guessing game. We're almost relying on the client or the advertising client to tell us if it worked or not. And that's certainly not a great solid way to win their business and win it time and time again. And so when we have attribution data and these types of analytics, it gives us the power to help steer the strategy for our client's advertising campaign. They can the station can retain more of their current clients because they're offering these types of analytics to help them increase their ad spend, help them to buy more frequently, help them to buy from them over a competitor potentially, and to even attract new clients. And so this has been an absolute game changer for broadcasters, and it's what we should be talking to every broadcast partner out there. So how does a station or how do these folks validate advertising that is not digital? Well, they do that via attribution modeling via our app, Veritone Attribute. And so here's basically how it works. By connecting a client's website analytics to a station's playout data, meaning what ran in their commercial logs, we are able to make connections between that ad campaign that aired and the actions that the target audience has taken on that advertiser's website. So just to break it down even more, I see or hear an ad over the air. and I take action on the client's website within a given time period. And that time period is called an attribution window. And that attribution window has typically been an 8-minute window. It's kind of industry standard, but it allows us a window of time to view that data, to view the engagement in a meaningful way so that we can begin to make inferences, correlations, and show directionality of cause and effect of advertising. So here's technically how we do it. To demonstrate that TV advertising works with Veritone Attribute, we're using this real data and we're making, we're giving advice throughout the advertising campaign on how best to use their ad dollars to accelerate consumer buying. The way that we work with the station is we essentially ingest their station playout data or their commercial logs to show us when ads and commercials ran over the air. We marry that data with the advertiser's website Google Analytics data so that we can begin to see the cause and effect and correlation between the two. Once we have that, we can drill down into some of this data to understand what types of ads are actually driving the most engagement on the client's website. What day parts are performing best? What type of creative messaging or call to action is actually driving the most engagement? And once we begin to drill down into some of these data points, we can then optimize the campaign to maximize the client's investment. If we know that a particular day part is performing best, let's sell more of that. If we know that a particular commercial has a really strong call to action and it's resonating with consumers and they're actually taking action, let's do more of that. So it's creating it's empowering the station with upsell opportunities for their client. The client's happy because they can see that their advertising is working for them, and there's there's full transparency there so that they can allocate more dollars to that which is working. So some of the features and benefits of Attribute, and we'll go into this in the live demo, but the ability to show near real time customer behavior in terms of what they're responding to on air is absolutely powerful for these stations. And not only are we able to do that for traditional commercials, those that are, scheduled in their log, so to speak, but we can also show attribution for anything that is in content that lives outside of the commercial break. So an in-content example would be a live mention of a sponsor or product placement or an event sponsor mention, something along those lines where they typically don't log that, but we are able to show attribution for really, the holistic advertising campaign. We manage all of this in one easy to use application. We could fully measure the advertising campaign and its efficacy in a self-service, centralized platform. Basically, we hand over the keys to the station. They empower their sellers to log in, access this data. It's very intuitive, very easy to use, and it has to be easy to use. They just want to be able to grab the data that makes sense for them, that empowers their clients so that they can go close more business. And so we've really built an application that is geared toward that. And then lastly, real-time reports and dashboards so that they can optimize these advertising campaigns on the fly. They can understand what's working best so that they can maximize their advertising clients' investment. So, these types of insights ultimately lead to collaboration and ensured efficacy. So one of the things I love about Veritone Attribute is that it empowers the station to truly be a marketing consultant to their advertising clients. So by giving them these tools and analytics, they can help them understand, all the nuances of the advertising campaign that are performing best. And surely if something is underperforming, they can actually, make changes and optimize that early on in the campaign, so that they're not just waiting for it to fail. They can surely maximize what's working best. And so I think what we'll do, Daniel, is we'll probably jump into a live demo. All right, so let's take a look at it live. So this is Veritone Attribute, and we've essentially logged into veritone.com. And once you log in into this, web-based platform, it lands you here in Veritone Attribute application, and it brings you to this dashboard. And so I'll give you kind of a lay of the land in terms of what we're looking at, and then we'll drill down into some of the data points. And so imagine this is a TV station. Over here to the left, they might have all of their, sales reps set up with folders, and inside their folder, they would have their current on-air advertisers listed within their folder, so that these are the campaigns that they're essentially measuring attribution for. So in this particular example, let's say Michael Kennedy is a rep at the station. He's got Chevrolet as an advertiser, and he's ran an attribution campaign for Chevy. In this particular campaign, he's looking at a specific date range, which is up in here to the right. So he certainly can measure attribution for their entire flight, or he might want to just glance at a particular date range. But in this example, we're going to look at, measuring the effectiveness of the entire campaign, which happens to be for the month of May and June. So now it's going to give me some data around that. So up here at the top, I've got kind of a global view of what's happening on the client's website as it relates to their advertising campaign with the station. So during this time period that they are advertising with the station, we know that of their total traffic that came from their site, over 3.5% actually can be attributed to the ads that ran on air. And so what we're doing technically is we're looking at the traffic that came from when the ad appeared on the, over the air, to what was the response and engagement within an 8-minute window from that ad airing to the client's website. We know that they ran a total of 303 ads during this time period. Here in green was the total traffic to their website. And of that total traffic that came to the website, we know that over 2,500 visits actually came during that attribution window. So we count those as ad visits. And then what that resulted in was almost 1,000 new ad users, net new users to that client's website that can be attributed to their advertising campaign. So that's a pretty significant number. And so, if I scroll down here a little bit, you'll see this nice chart here. This shows me a comparative date range of the total visits by hour to the client's website. And the narrative that sellers usually share with their advertiser here is that here's the line in orange where you were advertising with us, the station. So this represents your advertising campaign with us and the website the traffic to your website, versus the same time period prior to when you were advertising with us. This was the traffic to your website. So you're showing line over line, basically how flat their website traffic was prior to them advertising, versus, the spike and lift generated from when they were advertising with you, the station. So this is pretty powerful. If I scroll here to the peak here, you can see that there was, almost a 270% change in website traffic from the same time period before. So that's pretty impactful. It's a great highlight and success to share with that advertising client. If I scroll down a little bit here, I have some more data points. So this will essentially allow me to see on a heat map the traffic that's being generated from ads on a particular day of week. And a particular time. So the darker shade of blue represents the more penetration to that client's website. I can see here that at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, they had over 1,000 visits that can be attributed to those ads. So I might, ask myself, if I'm the seller, what am I doing Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. that's driving so much traffic? Is that when they have more frequency on the station? They're running more ads? Is that because we have a stronger marketing message or call to action or an offer in that particular ad? So they can begin to, visualize some of this data and then create the narrative so that they can take that information back to their client to help them optimize their campaign. So I'm not going to spend too much time drilling into every single data point. I just want to show you the capabilities, but essentially we could also look at the data by day part. This will allow you to see which day parts are resonating best with the audience in terms of running ads in maybe morning drive or middays or afternoons, something along those lines. And it'll allow me to drill down into those day parts or even the visits being generated by the day of week. If I click over here to placement analytics, this will allow me to see of the commercials that I've ran on air as an advertiser, this is the yield. So this is showing me the number of visits generated per ad. And in this case, each ad that is ran on air is generating about 8.5 visits. So that's a great indicator of how things are working and what the yield is. If I click over here to Creative Analytics, this gives me a breakout of all of the spots or all of the commercials that that client is running at the station, spot by spot. I can actually click into one of these spots and watch the spot to verify that's the one of interest. But you'll be able to see here by spot which ads are actually yielding the most response on the station's website, or I'm sorry, on the client's website. So in this case, this first spot, this Chevy Northeast spot, is generating almost 12 visits per ad. They actually ran over 100 ads in this case. If I look down here to the bottom, this spot actually ran over 100 times as well, but has a lot less visits per ad. So in that case, I might work with the advertiser to say, hey, let's run more of this one at the top. It's performing better. This one has a stronger call to action or a stronger offer. Maybe they're using an influencer to voice it or to promote it. Whatever that reason might be, this will essentially help me to make some of those business decisions. And then I can, drill down into some more data here in terms of ad visits by type, creative type, or even by duration in terms of if they're running, 5-second commercials versus 30-second commercials or 60-second commercials. Lastly, we have some really intuitive reporting that will allow the station to export and download all of this data into either a PDF or a PowerPoint, which is really tremendous. I love the PowerPoint idea. The station can certainly, export this to a PowerPoint. Maybe they just want to share 2 or 3 highlights of their campaign with the advertiser instead of every single data point. They can do that. And certainly they can add to it if they wanted to include some digital metrics or, maybe just some kind of recap summary of their entire campaign. And so that's been really a neat tool for the station. And then lastly, I'll just talk through how quickly you can create an advertising attribution campaign. So for the station, and the station is really the gatekeeper of this application. I'll mention that. I mean, this is really their secret sauce to manage those campaigns, to upsell the advertiser and to lure them back to spend again. So it's really going to be the station that has access to this. But essentially the way that we get an advertiser to connect their Google Analytics takes place directly from this application in a 3-step process. So, somebody can get in here, they can create on new advertiser. I want to set up a new attribution campaign for my, let's call it just test client. I'm going to add that to my folder. I can upload a logo if I want. I'll select next. And this is now where I invite the advertiser to connect. So I can simply just put in the email address for the advertiser. I can create a personal message. And once I hit done, that invitation is sent to the advertiser. It invites them to connect their GA data. And once they do that, then all of this data in the dashboards then populates, and I'll be able to see instantly their Google Analytics data. This is a quick view of all of the advertisers that have connected to Google Analytics and are set up in Attribute. Anybody who's been invited and maybe hasn't connected, and then certainly if any advertisers have disconnected. So super simple, easy to use interface. When I'm talking to broadcasters, both on the TV and radio side, I mean, this is just an aha moment for them. This is what they've been waiting for. They can't wait to get their hands on this. This is a super quick transactional sale. It's very easy for us to get them started and get them up and running. We help them with training and some best practices. And now they're off using these tools and analytics to help them close more business.
Now, Jeanette, one question people always ask is the Google Analytics, how long of an access do they have to that? Is it as long as the campaign only, or is it forever? There's some concern about how long does somebody have access to the Google Analytics?
Certainly. So when the advertiser connects their Google Analytics, they're granting read-only access to the station, but they have full control on when they can disconnect that. So it's really up to the advertiser. And I would just, I would advise the station to, come up with some kind of timeline and work with their advertiser to, hey, we're going to just do this together for this campaign, or let's leave it on for the entire year because you have buys throughout the year. So it's really up for, we'll recommend for them to kind of work with the advertiser on that front.
And Jeanette, when you said this was the aha moment, which is kind of cool. And people realize, oh, wow, this is what Veritone's doing in the value add. Have you run into any competitors or anybody who's doing what we're doing in particular, tying this back into the Google Analytics and showing the digital, that side of the house, the value add?
Sure. So there's certainly a couple of other attribution platforms in the market today. They are much more limited in their offering. I will say that Veritone is really the first platform to be able to show attribution for not only traditional spots, but also anything that is mentioned live. So that you can show attribution for everything that you're doing for a client on the air. So that's really been a big value proposition with this platform. I would say secondly that we do this in real time. It's easy to use. You get in there, you can pull reports and analytics as you please as you go, so that you're taking this real time data and you're using it in your daily business. There's no need to have to wait to ask us to pull these reports for you. You can do it on your own, and we just made it easy to use. And so, secondly, what that allows the seller to do is obviously optimize that campaign, and then they could also pull limitless campaigns. We don't charge or limit by campaign. It's a monthly access fee for this application, and then sellers can certainly get in here and pull attribution for all of their clients.
Great. Is there anything else you wanted to show us here on this demo?
No, I think I'm good.
Good. Well, we're going to be taking questions from our live audience here. So let me just get back to the slide. We have a couple of questions that popped up. One of them is, you mentioned this 8-minute window. Is there any ability to expand outside that 8-minute window?
Great question. So the answer is yes. We do offer the ability to configure that 8-minute window. And that was actually some direct feedback that we heard from one of our broadcast partners. And so the 8-minute window is a good unit of measurement in terms of limiting some of the noise. If we're looking at response of when somebody saw or heard an ad and then taking action on a client's website, that is certainly a tight enough window to limit some noise. Maybe if that advertiser was also advertising on a station across the street or on a billboard or on digital, we're kind of limiting some of those factors so that we can truly attribute that action to, what took place on the particular station's over the air.
And I take it there's some danger to even go beyond an 8-minute window. If you do it too long, right, there's probably some, you have that window way too open, and there might be other factors that might be outside of that campaign, right? So you could potentially have another radio campaign going on or something that might just add on to
Sure,
that.
you're basically just opening the funnel to allow for other traffic to come into the website. Right. And so, typically if we're going to open up a window for an advertiser, it's because that advertiser is only advertising with that station. They're not advertising anywhere else. Or maybe they're advertising on a station or in a market that has maybe a longer commute time. Maybe if somebody's listening in the radio and they hear an ad, they might not be able to actually get to their desktop computer to take action for 45 minutes in that case. Luckily with television tends to be a 2-screen medium where people have their phones in their hands while they're watching TV, so they can take an action a lot quicker.
Right. The other question we have here is, what are some of the objections you've been hearing? Objectionable questions you hear? So,
I would say at the station level, they, I think it's more of a fear up front than it is necessarily a reality, but they sometimes worry or are fearful about asking their advertising clients for their Google Analytics. And my response to that is, look, this presents an opportunity for you to sit down with them and have a valid business reason to talk to them about their advertising and their transparency and the fact that you want to maximize their investment so that they have the greatest return on the investment. And I think once you have that education process, you walk them through, look, this is read-only access. It's a 3-step process. I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. We'll turn it off, after the campaign ends. And this is proprietary to just you. So I think, walking them through and educating them on that has been successful.
That's great. Another question is, someone's asking is, what is the onboarding process like?
Good question. So we can actually move as fast as the station is willing to move. We have several options for them to give us access to their station playout data. It's pretty transactional. And then from there, we just make sure that we QA the data, and then we get them trained and going, and they can be up in a couple days.
That's amazing. And then one last final question is around transparency, and I kind of like this question. Is transparency a good or bad thing?
Well, look, I think that any data is good data. And certainly, I think that if you have data that is maybe underwhelming or underperforming, you could certainly, do something about it in the beginning of the campaign and maybe optimize something that's much more effective versus waiting till it's over. And then you have to face the client and say, this didn't work and we didn't even have the opportunity to fix it. And so I think that even if you have, it's all about testing, right? And so if you have data that can show you what's working, maybe what's underperforming, that's just giving you data insights to then go maximize it.
Agreed. And I think it's a good thing about transparency because it works on both ends. If the numbers are not doing well, then the onus is back on you, the broadcaster, saying, hey, I got to make this right. And if it's not, then we got to figure out what's going on, right? So,
yeah, and it kind of goes back to advertising 101. There's a lot that goes into making advertising successful. There are no guarantees in advertising, but we can certainly look at what is the best recipe of frequency, a marketing message, a call to action, a strong creative, and all of those things that go into making that successful, so that the station has the best shot at not only winning that business, but renewing that business, upselling that business. That's what this is all about. It's about, generating revenue for the station.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Those were all great questions. Thank you very much for all those questions. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next slide here. So we wanted to just let our listeners know that we also have a TV attribution webinar targeting end users. I'm going to be hosting that along with Kelsey Cochet. We're going to be talking about the same thing what we did here, but rather than talking to legal channel partners, this is going to be an eye towards targeting end users. So if you want to see how we pitch this to the end user, this is a great way to listen in and honing on your sales pitch. Feel free to email me at dwong@veritone.com, and I can send you a registration link to this webinar. It's going to be hosted by Media Post on Wednesday, August 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. Just a couple of reminders here on our channel partner portal. We do have a channel partner portal for all you partners. So you can, when you log in, this is where you gain all your sales enablement materials, your marketing materials, sales promotion. This is where you do your deal registration. So I just want to give you a quick reminder to making sure that you leverage that partner portal site for all the information. One last thing is also our Q3 2019. I know there's a little typo up on the corner here, but it's really our Q3 2019 sales incentive program, a very rich one that we've been keeping in for the last quarter, where you can get up to $550 for every meeting that's been qualified, as well as $6,000 for all opportunities closed. The key to this whole thing is you need to register the deal. So just making sure that you are well aware as you're taking some of these leads into opportunities and getting them down that sales funnel that you want to register these deals and make some extra money. And this is going to conclude our webinar. Thank you again, listeners, for being part of this July event. We're going to have another one in August. Jeanette, I want to thank you for, as always, joining in and helping us and showing us how great our products are.
Pleasure, Daniel. Thanks.
Thank you. So on behalf of, again, Jeanette Cato and myself, I'm Daniel Wong. Thank you again for visiting us, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye now.